not do anything short of deliver one spectacular final.
Who is going to be crowned World Cup champ?
He needs to get perfection. He needs to get first place. It all comes down to this moment. Real question right now, who is on top?
Welcome, guys. It's the 2018 FIS World Series presented by Honor. We are live here in Chengdu, China, and that means it's the end of the FIS World Series. We started things off in Hiroshima, and now we're all the way in China, but we had a lot of stops in between. We'll fill you in on that action later, but let's get talking about some of the stuff coming up our way. It is right now going to happen, the UCI BMX Freestyle Park Pro Men's Finals. That's a tongue twister, but it's a big one. It's one of the main events out here. That's why I have Daryl now hosting with me.
Well, Ryan Meyer, it's an honor to be here with you. You've been the host on all the stops, but the people that it's so exciting to be here with, not only all of you watching at home, but the fans here in Chengdu, China. I got to tell you, the Chinese have welcomed us with open arms. This is actually our third or fourth time that we've been here in Chengdu, and each time the reception just gets bigger and bigger. We have thousands of fans that have poured into the park here, but it's so exciting. This year we're in a new venue. We're about 20 minutes outside of City Center, and we're in an awesome park here, which is setting the stage for our event.
The park, I'm going to butcher this name, but I've been practicing in Chinese. It's called the Xingxue Park, and we are located in one of the most one of the most abundant natural resources here in Chengdu. We are super excited to be broadcasting this to you guys, but hey, let's take a look back and see the recap of the FIS World Series as a whole.
The 2018 FIS World Series kicked off in the land of the rising sun, Hiroshima, Japan. The roar from the Japanese fans pushed the athletes at round one, and they had their first chance to rack up points towards the season-long title. Round two had us going back to where it all started 21 years ago, Montpellier, France, for some epic comps and some amazing energy. For round three of the FIS World Series, we've traveled across the Atlantic to Canada. Here, the top three athletes from 3 different disciplines will battle it out for valuable World Series points. After a grueling year of training, travel, and competition, it'll all come down to our final stop in Chengdu, China, where we'll crown our FIS World Series champions.
Well, it's been an amazing activity displayed on all categories of action sports, from amateur to professional, wakeboarding, skateboarding, inline, but this is where it happened, the BMX finals, the freestyle finals in the park just located behind us. Packed field. What's been going on so far on the tour, though, with this?
Yeah, and this is really exciting. It's called the FIS World Series for a reason. You saw our 4 stops that we had out there. So not only is each individual contest important, but each one of our riders has an ability to rack up points at each stop for a cumulative score throughout the entire season. Last year, it was Dhers who came out on top, so he is technically our defending champion, trying to do it again out here. But each one of the stops are so important, and especially our last stop here. So let's take a look at our current point standings. You can see Nick Bruce is in that top spot with 23,900 points, followed by your defending champion, Dhers, Marin Rantish, Logan Martin, and Justin Dowell. Now, one thing I want to note while we see these riders up here, Nick Bruce unfortunately did not qualify for the finals. Same goes with Logan Martin. He unfortunately is out with an injury on his foot, and also Justin Dowell did not make the finals.
So that's really where it makes it an interesting jump. Our only finalists that are in contention to win the overall rankings is going to be Dhers and Marin Rantish. Looking over here, there's that big satellite dish by Honor. You notice that this isn't the Montpellier course. What has Hurricane Parks done here?
Yeah, they really created a unique course. We had our 4 stops. The first one in Hiroshima was a little more bowl-focused. Then we had our masterpiece in Montpellier. But right now, we're taking a couple of those features and making this a very special course designed just for this event, where we do have that capsule. You can see the large, enormous spine in the middle of the park. But one big thing that's leaving all of our riders talking is we do not have our signature step-up box jump out here, which is really cool, allowing riders to have to find their own voice. on different style jumps that will give them that aerial up in the sky for their tricks. But let's break down what it's going to take for our riders. We had our qualifications the other day, and that means we have our 12 finalists who are going to be broken down into 3 heats of 4 riders. They're going to have 2 runs of 60 seconds per rider, and this year we're doing a new thing where it is best run that counts. So 12 of our best riders, 3 separate heats of 4 riders, 2 runs, 60 seconds per rider. The best run counts. That is very important to note. The best run counts. It's going to give us a little bit more opportunity for our riders to strut their stuff and work their magic out on the course. You can see that we actually have our judgment criteria: the difficulty, amplitude, originality, and style. We got our control and execution and the exploration of the park. Now, Ryan, being a fellow rider yourself, I want you to highlight a little bit what exploration of the park means.
I mean, looking at some of our top qualifiers there, Dennis Anderson is a man who totally ticks all those boxes for exploration. Takes a course and doesn't just say, okay, that's a box jump, I hit it straight. Says, where can I go on to, from that landing to that landing, into which wall, into what transition? That's the exploration of the park. Now we have our judges on course there. Who are the top ones?
Dave Cleworth, Brian Kaczynski, Romulad Norway, Marcus Vilke, and Christy Hughes. Those are all riders themselves, industry icons. They are going to be taking the criteria we talked about and giving a score from 1 to 100 out there.
Here we go, the first place winning run coming out of semis. This is Dennis Anderson.
So right now we're taking a look at Anderson's run where he got in first place. You can see a little sample of the criteria. Now, we talked about exploration of the course. The fact that a rider has to find their own line out here, they could start at any vantage point that they want to choose, and that's going to set them up to get speed and momentum to do big things like that tail whip transfer.
That is exactly something I was talking about. That was just a small hip wedge-to-wedge feature, but Dennis took that as a massive lip into that huge quarter pipe, transferring way deep on that as well. How he aired into that satellite dish right there, popping back from the elongated spine into the very tall step-up spine. This is exploration of the course at its finest.
Well, this is a little preview of what we are about to see today. Our riders are going to be turning it up, but how about we throw it down to our MC and field catfish and get ready to meet the riders.
And we are ready to meet our riders. CHENGDU, do you want to do this? 12 of the best riders on earth. We are about to see him throw down. Let's meet our riders. From the United States, Ryan Nyquist. Representing Russia, Eric Rezaev. Hailing from Essex, Great Britain, this is Jack Clark. From the United States of America, Daniel Sandoval. In contention for the year-end title, the #1 rider from Croatia, Marin Rantish. From Tehachapi, California, USA, Jake Cleaver. Representing British cycling, the United Kingdom's Declan Brooks. The other rider in contention for the year-end title, Daniel Dhers from Caracas, Venezuela. Australia's representative, Jake Walwork. The #1 BMX rider from Japan, get loud for Rin Nakamura. First time to a FIS finals, first time Latvia has been in the finals. This is Ernest Zabolt. And your #1 qualifier from California, USA, Dennis Anderson! Jinja CHENGDU! Gentlemen,
wow, Wow, such an amazing heat of riders coming up our way, broken up. Man, this is going to be such a fun finals. You see the top BMX athletes in the world. I'm so excited to see as well from Latvia, Ernest Zebold in the finals, but not just in the finals, but with such a bang. He impressed us tremendously yesterday, didn't he?
Yeah, I mean, this entire contest so far has been out of control. The qualifiers, the semifinals, and now the finals. We are going to witness some of the world's best riding ever showcased. The reason being, in 2020, BMX has been introduced into the Olympics, where it's going to be taking place in Tokyo. So all of our big hitter riders are coming out. We got Ryan Nyquist, who's an absolute legend, down to the 16-year-old sensation in Japan. They all want to try to vie for their own spot or position to qualify for the Olympics. Now, from this moment on, November 1st up until May 2020, that is going to basically be, that's going to determine all the points and criteria where a rider can potentially earn for their country and or for themselves to compete in that. There's a lot of information. If you'd like to get involved, whether to go cheer on a rider at an event or you'd like to actually compete and try, you could go to UCI.org to find out all the information, or you could check out links through feast.tv. But right now, our first rider, he is a legend, doing it since the 90s. That's right, he's a household name. You're all saying, let's go for our next rider you know and love. This is the bar spinner, Ryan Nyquist.
Nyquist yesterday had a solid first run, putting him into this contention. That's how he got into the finals. I had said that he was taking it easy on run 2. I previously ate my words after I had a conversation with him. It was just so difficult to hold things together, and he knew you had to have perfection to improve a run there. So he held together and luckily made it in the finals. Beautiful 720 from Nyquist right there.
We are seeing the focus out of Nyquist on his first run. He knows that this event is very important, and he wants to try to get as many points possible. We saw our qualifying just be riding out of control, and right now it is getting turned up to absolute bonkers level at that backflip bar spin. Nyquist with a very smooth transition, grabbing the lip, setting up for the box, wants a big one.
Yes, 360 double bar spin.
With the transfer, setting up to a 540 bar spin. This is Nyquist in his zone and his element out here. The Haro rider is pouring it on with a truck driver and 9 seconds to go. These are going to be very crucial moments here because it's all about the speed and the exclamation point you can put at the end of your run. And that is a buzzer for Nyquist. Wow, the legend putting down a huge first run.
Yes, Nyquist. Love seeing that coming out of the boy. Whew. If anyone has been working for it, for the Olympics, let's say, it is Nyquist. To get into this position, he's been doing this for decades. He is the reason why most of us are even here competing. Nyquist right there doing justice, that backflip, tuck no hander. He has that signature style with the seat a bit higher so that he can throw the bars like that. But he invented that back in the day and still is doing it and showing that it is holding its merit amongst all these young guns.
Yeah, I love that transfer up to the step up. We actually saw that line in our females competitor where Paris Benengas jumped up the step, and right now we're seeing Nyquist toss the bars up there. One other thing to note, that Ryan's actually working with the UCI and USA BMX to help kind of be a coordinator with the riders out there. So he's doing double duty, not only as a rider in BMX, also working with the Olympics, but last year he put a lot of time in the mountain bike circuit as well. So Ryan, in his mid to late 30s, has been riding harder than ever and getting better with age, is 78.80.
Oh, I love you, Ryan, man. That's why you have such a good name, isn't it? Ryan Nyquist pushes into first place with a 78.8, but quite a good score as a first man down. That is always the hardest score for the judges to push out because they know that is the one that's going to determine their level. Irek Raizev right there on course right now, about to drop in for his run. The young Russian man has a lot in his bag of tricks. Let's see what he pulls off here.
Yeah, Ryan, that numeric value, what?
360 triple tail whip. Talk about tongue twister. Bar spin to tuck no hander right there. 360 tuck up the big spine.
That numeric value on the first run score sometimes is just to have the judges set a base of where they could go off of. They sometimes don't give the highest score for the first because they don't want to back themselves up into a corner. So that was a big run out of Nyquist. And right now, Erik Ryzev is firing back with a 360 unlooked down transfer. Great style as he comes in off the wall, nose diving into the top of that transition, and look at the momentum build.
Coming up there with another triple tail whip. Amazing how he is able to have such control and fluidity still within his run after doing such great girth tricks right there. Tuck no hander transferring back in, and that 360 bar spin to downside tail whip.
You saw the endurance as he was able to put the pedals in and build up the speed. The ends of the run have been the make or break on this entire season. So you heard that buzzer go off. That tail whip is not going to count. The way that it works, if a rider is approaching an obstacle as the buzzer goes off, then that will count. If they're clearly far away or they wind up hitting a ramp and then having to go to another one, that will not count. But let's take a look right here at that 360 triple tail whip around. A few years ago, Erik Ryzev exploded onto the scene out at Simple Session, where he went up throwing down 3, 4, 5 tricks in one air. Wow. We don't have our big signature box jump out here, but he's still able to get it done like this triple tail whip and putting the feet right under where it needs to belong.
You know what I just noticed? Coming back on that spine, on the step down spine, I thought he actually missed that. He just caught the 360 tail whip, but actually seeing in that other angle replay, he did a 360 tail to downside tail, and actually it was just perfect. He caught it perfect, so I thought that was the one flaw in his run. I'm really interested to see what the judges think of this.
Yeah, and he had that endurance. So the thing that's happened over the last few years, especially with our FIS World Series, and now that we're partnering with the UCI and going to the Olympics, you see the focus from our riders really working on almost the negative moments in their run, the downtime, to have that energy, to have that endurance. And it's not only about your tricks, it's, hey, can you really do that full 60 seconds? That's a long time out there. We could see our 5 judges. Yes, it's very cool that we have a female voice up there in the booth. That is Christy Hughes, who is going to be giving her spin on the score from 1 to 100. They all know their criteria. There was also head judge Hank, known as Dave Cleaworth, given the score of a 79.80. So Nyquist now could throw up the number 2 score as opposed to number 1, because Erik Ryzev moves into that top spot.
So you see there, that was a massive run from Erik Ryzev, but still not pushing the 80s. So you see how the judges are going to be weighing on that system. Jack Clark right there, big flare. And then answering back with the 360 double tail whip, going off axis a little bit on that rotation. Nice to see his style in there. Backwards on the box jump of that truck driver.
Jack Clark doing it for British Cycling as he does a suicide no-hander as opposed to putting the handlebars up in his lap. Jack has always been one of our favorites to announce on the tour because he's got big bag of tricks. Not only the jumping variations that we're seeing, but also has the ability to get tech. His best finish was 2016 on the overall rankings. Jack Clark, though, right now, trying to get it done with 15 seconds to go.
1 foot can right there on the quarter pipe. Clark taking over here, that 360 tuck no-hander. Bar spin up, a couple seconds left. One more trick gonna be set up in the gate here with that 540 bar spin. I do believe that is gonna count. It was just at the buzzer before he went up to takeoff. We were going by Olympic rules. I think that is going to be counting on this one. We'll have to leave it up to the UCI delegates.
Yeah, that 540 bar spin right there, getting it done. Jack Clark currently sitting in 23rd place as we go into the finals. As we mentioned, a lot of our riders who are sitting in the top 5 and even top 10 position have not made the finals. So Jack Clark's going to get a lot of extra points here to help potentially move him up. First place gets 10,000 points, second 9,000. Third, 8,200, and then it moves down to our 12th place finisher who will be awarded at 3,900 points. But look at Jack Clark. There's that off-axis flip you were talking about, and here is the 540 bar spin as it comes around.
Clark right here.
Would love to leave here on the podium.
One thing to note, you could see the flags in the background breezing a little bit out there. It's a cool air. It's definitely a lot of moisture in it and the wind out there. Thankfully, the park is kind of sheltered by some of our stands, but we are in an outdoor environment, and that can play a factor for the riders on the course. We've seen this before where maybe we start out with one condition as far as the weather goes, and as we progress and move through the heats, the wind can pick up, and we got a new leader, 83.40, so the first rider to bump up into the 80s.
Solid score out of there from Jack Clark. But it is always nerve-wracking. You saw a little, yeah, okay, good, but okay, let's see what else comes after that shake in his head. Next boy up is a big one out of San Diego, I believe as well. Daniel Sandoval, 360 downside double tail, the man who perfected that trick.
Yeah, Sandoval out here, the Californian going up and over the spine. Last year got 5th overall. Whoa! So now Sandoval crashed again. You're not out if you wind up falling, but we know and the riders know the judges are looking for perfection out here. But it's an interesting factor because the stakes have been increased. The pressure each rider has been under has been increased. We saw in semifinals a lot of riders wound up almost pulling a Baba Booey, as we say, and messing up their first run and then coming back for a big second run. So if a rider does crash, I personally recommend getting back up on the bike, doing it, but I'm also not on the course. Your mind can all of a sudden get thrown for a loop. You lose your mental footing charging forward. These are really big tricks, and if you have a game plan, it's sometimes hard to follow through. So you're going to see a 20.60, again, the score 1 to 100, so that's going to put him in the lower bracket down there. Lots of room to move up.
Ryan Nyquist going back up for his second run right there.
Again, if you are in first heat or third heat, it does not matter because you are competing against the other riders. They are in order in reverse from their semifinal scores. The advantage is if you go in the later heats, you know how much energy you have to pour into your run as far as that risk versus reward or a potential crash that could happen as you increase the difficulty. But Nyquist starting things off big and difficult. Bar spin back in the backflip. And yes, that was a rocket wall ride, putting both feet on the back pegs.
Love seeing that trick as well, bringing back the old school, but his old school isn't old school, it's just him. I love seeing that. Nyquist staying true to his style.
Yeah, a lot of riders even back in the day weren't doing the rocket air tricks, but Nyquist doing the rocket bar spins, rocket wall rides, and utilizing the pegs. You also might see Nyquist has some front brakes on the bike. Freestyle, you can choose to set up any way you want, and that way Nyquist going on the step up and do a double bar spin 540.
Really
that was a huge
trick.
Yeah, this is where we're seeing you get one run done in strategy, you want to turn things up, and Nyquist does just that with the double rotation on the bars.
You know, it's really interesting to note that when he does tricks like that 360 suicide no-hander without spinning the bars, if you didn't have a front brake and you took your hands off, the whole entire bars would spin around. So he actually taps his front brake before he takes his hands off so it stays firm. As well, you notice that if he does a backflip suicide, he'll have to press his front brake so the bars aren't spinning around. He really utilizes that more than just doing foot jam maneuvers.
Yeah, it's an interesting point because it changes the rotation on the wheel. So some riders actually even will pull it and then toss them 3-4 times around. So right now, look at the double time around on the 720. Things to note on Nyquist's run, not only did he have the double bar spin in the 540, he went up so smooth, catching it, look at this, setting up perfect 1-2 times around. And then he also got that transfer with the bar spin in. He didn't have that in his first run. I have a feeling this is going to up his score. Again, his first run was a 78.8.
Definitely, I believe, is going to up his score. It was a 78.8 and looking to beat right now. Score coming in, it's an 82.4, good enough for second place. Ryan Nyquist still has some gas in the tank.
So Ryan, look at that, 2 scores are in the 80. Jack Clark and Ryan Nyquist both have them. Well, with the 79.8 just on the outside of the 80s looking in, we've got one of Russia's best BMX riders, Irik Ryzev, getting ready to roll.
Irik Ryzev right now sitting in 3rd position, but has such amazing 360 triple tail, I believe. Bar spin to tuck no hander. It's getting confusing when you watch this guy sometimes.
Well, because he can put so many jumps. Let's bring that down. That's 4 tricks in one air. The 360 with the triple tail whip. There you go, throwing the bars, throwing a double on the quarter. Yuriy Graizev is a trick machine.
And not only can he trick everything like a video game, but he has such great style holding it together. You see the laugh on his face. He knows that he did a little bit of a over-rotator, caught the wheel on that spin with that 360 unlook back. Triple tail whip right there, slipping a pedal, and this isn't going to be an improvement for Yuriy.
So you see right there, he did slip his pedals, thankfully didn't crash. Could have went back on the bike, but decided not to. Again, if a rider knows here at the UCI, with Bart de Jong being our head delegate and all of our judges, the fact that this is going towards your Olympic score to potentially qualify, along with all the other events that the Feast World Series is going to have next year, the riders know that the judging criteria, the ante is up. If you slip a pedal, you're going to see maybe even 5 points come off. If you crash, potentially 10, maybe 20, even if you get back on the bikes. That's not an official ruling of saying how many points are going off, but when you have this upper tier caliber of riding, every point matters. I mean, Ryan, we were talking about the semifinal, even the qualifier. All the biggest names in BMX are out here this weekend, and each one of those names that didn't qualify normally are on the top podium in a final.
If you're watching the Facebook Lives before this, I had a moment to catch up with Yuriy Graizev as he was getting into the practice there, and he just touched on a little bit how difficult the level of riding is always at the Fees. Jack Clark right here, he knows something about that as he's always on these tour stops. Has massive amplitude on that flare right there and a 360 double tail whip down that step down. Bar spin to tuck no hander, backwards 360 double truck, dipping the wheel into the box jump kicker right there, and going backwards with that underflip invert. Absolutely amazing style out of Jack Clark right there. Turn down coming around, 360 invert as well. Nobody doing that trick the way he does. That is a very signature style that Jack Clark has developed in those spins.
Jack Clark here, doing it for UK Cycling. Let's see what he's going to do. Suicide no-hander. Clark, we talk about him being so technical when it comes to lip tricks. That's balancing on that coping spot, and he's not even necessarily putting that in his run. He's showing how much control he has. And right here at the buzzer, 540 inverted tabletop with some height and style. So Clark getting the full run. That's what you want to do out here. So Clark's first run was solid. He had 83.4. He was sitting in that top spot. He has that second opportunity to help up the ante out there. We talk about strategy being so important. If you get a first run in, sometimes it takes the pressure off. You go, all right, I got to score up on the board. Let me try to turn it up, increase the risk reward out here. And look at the height on that no-hander from Clark. Ooh, such good style out there. I mean, that is basically upside down and sideways. Let's take a look at that suicide no-hander, full wingspan, putting the shoulders back right there.
And here's that 540 invert. Absolutely amazing style that Clark has developed, doing those inverts the opposite way that you usually would. Jack Clark ups himself into an 86.2. Really wants to solidify himself against the next heats. For the second run up, Daniel Sandoval. He did not have what he was looking for. Ended up calling it after looping out on that one trick on top of the quarter pipe there. Daniel Sandoval from California is going to be dropping in here, starting things off and getting a bit of redemption for sure. 360 double downside whip, there you go. Sandoval pumping in that bar spin and up here onto the large spine, 360 whip, here into the quarter pipe. There's that 540 flare, holding on to it, almost looping out again, but still holding on nonetheless. Wow, big flare over the channel gap. Sandoval is going for it. He knows that he has to pull all his big tricks out.
Sandoval putting all of his chips right in the middle of the felt table as he goes opposite direction with that bar spin, stepping up onto the elevated catwalk. Sandoval with the no-hander back into that spine. 360 bar spin to tail whip with the transfer. That was rad. Tail whip over the hip. Come on, Sandoval, looking to keep that consistency going for the final thoughts. What? Yes, sticking it clean right there. That was the front flip flare. Here we go, bar spin. And that is time for an enormous run out of Daniel Sandoval. Daniel Sandoval, we mentioned in 2017 got a 5th overall, and in 2015 a 2nd overall. Right now we are looking at him floating above that head tube as the back end of the frame goes around 2 times. And Sandoval just going for the distance on that flare, getting across the channel with no problems, as Sandoval currently sits in 9th for points overall. And there was that front flip flare known as the lawn dart. So Daniel having a lot of diversity on his run out there and a lot of power. He had that flare transfer, the front flip flare, and also did that 540 flare. Like you said, barely holding on. It was as if he was riding the bull. You saw all that pressure almost blow him off the back of the bike, but almost is the key word, as he wound up keeping the tires down.
Well, the fact is he is definitely going to be improving his score from the first run, where he ended it after that loop out of the 540 flare. He had a 20.6, so it's going to be a clear improvement from that, leaps ahead. But my question is it going to be enough to rival the 86.2 of Great Britain's Jack Clark? That's going to be the score to beat right now of Heat 1. Those two are battling it out clearly for the top 2 spots, I believe.
Yeah, I mean, this could be close right here. That was a huge run beginning to end, but Clark also had a lot of power out there.
And Daniel Sandoval not having enough. He's going to be pushed into 2nd place there with an 84.6, a respectable position for all our 4 competitors in this first heat.
So that is going to wrap up our riders out there.
You see the amazing crowd out there in Chengdu really doing justice for this. Let's take a look back and see some of the season highlights from Daniel Dhers and Marin Rantis. There you see Dhers as well, starting things off in Hiroshima. That cork 720 Takno-Hander, typical styles from Daniel Dhers as well. Moving forward here to Montpellier, you see that beautiful course along the riverbanks. If you guys have never made it out to the original spot in Montpellier, make sure you jot it on your calendar for 2019. It's going to be a doozy. Moving forward right there to Edmonton, Canada, Daniel Dhers with that 360 double tail whip and that cork 720 Takno-Hander. These are those very signature style tricks that Daniel Dhers perfected years ago and is still tossing today, but still gaining such successful points.
And points is what it's going to be all about. 2017, he is your champion and defending this year, trying to do it again. But let's take a look now at Marin Rantis out on course. This is our Croatian rider who has had a big year. We both talked about him coming into his own and in his own voice of style and tricks on the course. Currently sitting 3rd overall in points. We were watching him out in Hiroshima, and then all of a sudden magically changed to Montpellier, where he wound up tearing things up and getting a well-respected 3rd place. So Marin Rantis, let's take a look here out at Edmonton. Very big tricks, as you can see the city in the background with that triple truck driver. And there you go in the distance across, very comfortable with the tail whips and the bar spins. You see the variations not only in 360s, not only in backflips, but also in that 720. So as we said, Rantis is so focused on his riding. He's really started to excel in the last few years and bring it all together. Well, right now we're hoping that the Croatian rider can bring it all together for his first of 2 runs. You can see the focus, you can see the energy of our crowd out here, and right now you can see the smile as Marin Rantis gets ready to bring it here at our FIS World Series. Rantis, one of our 2 riders, along with Daniel Dhers, who are in the finals that are sitting in our top 5 spots for overall points. As Rantis drops in, ooh, hot hands right there, throwing him around 3 times. That was a triple truck driver on that step down transfer.
So you see right there, Rantes, yes, executing that perfectly. I don't know if he was wanting to go, but yeah, he was in his semifinals. He was wanting to go left again, hitting that. Wow, 360 tail whip into another 360, 720 tail whip from Marin Rantes in the middle of his run. He is going for it, and this time he knows he has what it takes. Double bar spin right there, double flip whip. Absolutely incredible run from the young Croatian rider. You said he was coming into his own, definitely looks like it, and he has style to match it as well. Triple tail whip into a double tail whip air. 6 seconds left, one more trick out of the bag. A big solid flare for Marin Rantes right down to the clock.
Wow. Big run for Croatia out here. Talk about a big season. As we said, 3rd overall in points. Nick Bruce, our current point leader, is not in the finals. So if Rantes is able to put down a big run, he could potentially move up past Nick Bruce and also Daniel Dhers. Take a look. 720 with the tail whip. He wound up hanging up just a little bit.
But that wasn't even a straight jump. He was going over the hip side. That is even more added difficulty as well. That triple tail whip on that step down spine right into a double. He was completely composed and on fire that run.
We're gonna see what the judges think. He definitely did do a lot of tail whips in the run, but he had a lot of variety on the obstacles that he threw it off, including with the 720 over that hip as you're talking about. It's a lot more difficult. You gotta have difficult spot in the landing, finding your line, not only on the takeoff, but coming in as you are halfway or 3/4 through your runs. So again, the score to beat, UK's Jack Clark is holding strong in that top spot. Marin Rantes, our first rider of our second heat that we're getting a chance to see. 12 riders in the final. Rantes is our 5th. We've got our 5 judges who are trying to figure out where they're going to sit. You actually see them over Marin's shoulder right up there, calculating the score. The closest judge to us is Brian Kaczynski. You know him as being a street god. He helped redefine BMX street for the modern age, still riding, still ripping, and they got to put a number to it.
And it's not going to be enough. 84.90. The judges have spoken. It is not just going to be about big tricks here, but you're going to have some more fluidity. You are getting high, maybe higher points for tackling all of the course. You know, there was a big difference in the expression and the way that Jack Clark tackled the course versus Marin Rantes and the tricks. Let's see how Jack Leva decides to do this.
Well, another rider who's definitely been finding his own voice as we progress through the Feast World Series is Jake Leva. I like the way he set things up for that capsule with the 2 wall rides and a 360 tail whip to bar spin.
Sucking that one in, really got that it was going to be a big hang up, and he saved that big.
Yeah, and that was over that extended spine. The level of difficulty is increased because your landing is so much of a thinner margin of error. You've got to come in on that steep landing, but right now, double tail whip backflip and having no problem finding the landing, setting up for that opposite wall ride. He's got 25 seconds as Jake does a no-hander. What's it gonna be?
Here we go, that backflip drop in. Usually that's an obstacle that you see riders do at the very start of their run. Jake decided to do this mid-run yesterday and has pushed it through. I think that's a solid choice. Very different to see that on a course run.
Got that 450 rotation and throwing it up. Big run for Jake Leva. It's been so great seeing the progression of Jake throughout the Feast World Series. He was on our tour last year, but this year, similar to Marin Rantes, finding his own voice. And what I mean by that, you have a lot of riders where they wind up learning the fundamentals of BMX, learn a lot of the tricks, and maybe do some lines that mimic or replicate some other riders out there. And I'm not calling them copycat riders. I'm not saying that with the last season, but you wind up finding this confidence level when you put in the time and you put in the work. And right now, Jake Leva, we saw that, especially with this 360 tail whip to bar spin over that extended spine. I mean, that is such a difficult thing to jump because you can't gauge your landing. You have to pull up for height and gauge your distance. That backflip double tail whip was huge. And then here's just a look at a quick little 450. But Brian, we talk about putting in work and riding a lot. Jake Leva actually moved closer to Woodward West out to Tehachapi, California, where he can ride on the regular out there with Dustin Orman, who's out in the crowd and put in the time to really perfect his skills.
Yeah, I assume that is a good move. Moving to Tehachapi, you have Nasty Trails, I guess, out there. You also have the amazing Woodward West. It's a phenomenal training ground. Jake Leva has his score coming in there, an 83.2. It's not going to be enough to rival the top 3 yet, but just shy back there in 4th position. A man who has tackled it time and time again, and I believe qualified 2nd from the qualifications into the semifinals. He's out here doing it in Heat 2. This is going to be Declan Brooks. He is a man to watch if we're talking about dissecting the course as well and using it to his advantage. He shreds around here. He has such speed and poise when he tackles this.
Yeah, Declan Brooks, British cycling on course with a no-handed backflip. So awesome to have Declan back. He wasn't able to compete in the earlier stops due to injury. 360 tail whip over the box jump backwards. Difficulty increased, but this time doing a bar spin backflip forward. It's so great having Declan out here because he finds unique lines like that opposite wall ride, then going over that hip. No other rider has utilized that ramp. Whoa! 360 bar spin to X up, honor capsule. Look at the way that Declan, if you had that bird's eye view, he's putting all the ramps in here, hitting hips that no other rider has, and going for the manual.
Look at that connection, linking up out of that hip and directly up into the sub box manual right there, and a fader foot jam nose manual on top of that UCI box right there.
Declan Brooks is back in a big way in a front flip to end an awesome run.
And holding it right at the buzzer. What an amazing way to finish off your first run.
Welcome back, Declan Brooks. That was a huge run for British Cycling's own Declan Brooks. That was awesome out there. All the boxes were checked in that run. Not only did he have the big tricks and the big variations, but he utilized parts of the course no other rider has. And you might be saying, well, why is that? He was able to use his ability and skill to set up for lines, to set himself up to hit those ramps. That's a skill within itself. You see the tail whip onto the catwalk, and then there's a backflip with a no-hander. Let's highlight the height out there. Good extension on the one-handed X-up. And here's a look at the double bar spin to truck driver. That is so difficult to do. Here's a manual utilizing that back wheel boogie as he drops in. And right now says, you know what? I'm going to make sure my front wheel is utilized too. That is a burner Vader jam coming back in. And then a huge exclamation point. That's a stick of dynamite at the end of his run with that front flip.
Declan Brooks right there waiting for his score, anticipating to see what it's going to be. The judges have been hard today. Jack Clark upping his score twice, but nobody else having that luck so far. Marin Rantes just had a banger of a run, but sitting in 2nd place. We'll see right now what the judges are delegating and how they think this is going to line up. If you guys want to stay tuned for some other action, of course, we still have one more main event out here at the FEES. It's going to be the UCI BMX Flatland World Cup Finals. That's going to be happening at 4:50, so just an hour after this finishes. Stay tuned online. You'll get the live stream with us there. We have some amazing stuff coming your way. But right now, we're waiting to see. Wow, we have a new leader, Declan Brooks, with an 87.4. The judges have rewarded him for this one, and he is in the hot seat.
Declan Brooks turning it up and turning up the score. Well, if there is one rider who can do it, we know it's Daniel Dhers because he was on top in 2017. He currently is sitting 2nd overall in points. We know the focus that he has. He's win almost every major competition in BMX because he can deliver the goods in the finals. From Caracas, Venezuela, currently living in North Carolina, you see the focus. You're defending 2017 champ. This is Daniel Dhers.
What an introduction for a man who has basically taken the title everywhere. At one point, he was the man to beat out there in the contest circuit, but still he's keeping his poise, and he is the man in to beat today for the title race. Marin Rantes, his teammate right behind there, who is the man who could potentially do that. Daniel Dhers right here, that court 720 tuck no-hander into a double tail whip on that air.
So Dhers sitting second in points behind Nick Bruce, who unfortunately did not qualify for our final. Dhers knows if he puts together a big run, it will go beyond the finals and could help towards his Feast World Series overall score. Inverted flare. We are seeing a signature Daniel Dhers run as he throws the 360 double tail whip down the step up. Dhers right now hitting that halfway mark as he sets up for a 360 tail whip to tabletop. Let's see if Dhers winds that risk reward factor. He's got a big first half of his run. Is he going to wind up playing it safe, saying, I just want to get a score and not crash? And there we go, a 360 switch no-hander. Here we go. Bar spin over that hit with the 540 and an alley-oop flare at the buzzer. Wow, so Dhers putting in a big run.
Daniel Dhers as well, man, to answer under pressure like this.
So if you are Nick Bruce, you're sitting in the stands right now saying, how is that going to affect my score when his score winds up coming in? Because Nick Bruce is our current points leader. He is here in Chengdu, but did not make it to the final. Daniel Dhers is a rider who I like to think works strategy more than any other rider out there. That is why he has won all the competitions. So you saw him throw down some big tricks. You know that he can go deeper in the bag, but he wound up for his first one talking a little bit of strategy and putting down a big run, but not necessarily risking all of the chips. That is a huge run. I'm not saying that's not potentially bigger than Declan Brooks, but it's just as far as his strategy. If you win all the comps, you got a lot of tricks in there. So Dhers on deck. You see Marin Rantish with the orange bike in the background. You talk about them being teammates. They're also sitting second and third for our overall points, respectively. So you can even see Dhers right now is keeping his composure. He knows that he's going to have to potentially bring it back out in his second run. He knows how important this is. If he's won almost every contest out there, you know he's going to want to be one of the 9 riders that will be in the Olympics in 2020.
It's an absolutely incredibly small number to be pushing into the Olympics. Just 9 riders. Think about that. All the contests that we have out here are into the dozens. Daniel Dhers coming in an 84.2. Good enough for 5th place.
So one thing to note, all of our riders are in the 80s. There's literally only 5 points difference between our 1st and our 7th place rider. That is a very small margin out there. So you might be saying, whoa, why is this rider sitting here or there? But just take a look how close it is between Dhers, Sandoval, and Marin Rantish. They're all in the 84. That literally could be the difference of the wind blowing in one way or the other. That is definitely an important thing to note if you're wondering where the scores are and why a rider's sitting where he is.
Here we go for the second run of Marin Rantish. Currently sitting in 3rd place with an 84.9. 1 minute on the clock and his last minute out here on the FIS World Series for 2018. Marin, huge air right there with the double truck driver on the step down. Hitting the wall ride, flaring around the corner here into the hip of the box jump. 360 tuck no-hander, tail whip. Marin is going to call this one.
Wow. So Marin Rantish waving it off. We talk about it out here. Sometimes if a rider doesn't get his head in the zone for the next run, or they maybe do their full pull in their first run, they wind up sticking with that. Ryan, as you and I also know, a lot of riders do have injuries out there. They like to not talk about it beforehand. Sometimes we don't necessarily mention it, but I'm curious to know what Marin Rantish, why he decided to pull off in his second run. Let's take a look though at some highlights. Maybe we'll find the answer to that question. There was a bar spin double coming down. Here's a look at the no-handed 360. So you see for Marin, compared to his first run, even those tricks he did was not necessarily on the same caliber. Maybe he missed that bar spin for the triple and said, hey, you know what? I didn't necessarily poise myself up for a score that is going to wind up beating his first run score, which is an 84.9. So his score is going to be a 19.60, and obviously that first score will stick. He is sitting there still right in front of Daniel Dhers, Daniel Sandoval as well.
Jake Cleaver right here on course, doing his second run. 83.2 is what he currently has coming into this event. Yeah, double wall ride, love that. Flying around that satellite dish.
Going for the 360 tail whip at height. So we're seeing Jake take a similar approach to his first run. Again, if it is a course where the riders have the best run counts, it's okay if they wind up doing a similar run and just throwing a couple different tricks. They're not going to be penalized as if it was an overall approach. Backflip, double tail whip. That height was insane, Ryan.
25 seconds, Jake.
Here we go. Up on, coming in.
Yes, and that flare dropping in.
Popping that flare. Let's go, 10 seconds. Come on, Jake, here we go. One-footed tabletop. 450. Final thought with the bar spin. And that is time. So Jake had a similar run out on the course. What I mean by that is if you look where he started and some of the elements that were in there, a few of the tricks were different. Specifically on that extended box jump, that's the coping to coping with the 4-foot deck, 6 foot tall. Enormous. Most riders are sweating jumping that thing. In his first run, he had a variation, but this one he chose to do a 360 tail whip at a lot of height. You saw he's potentially looking for that bar spin, but there he does them 2 times over that big spine with the big landing. And there is the tail whip going mad with the back end, and here it is in the backflip with the double tail whip. And look at that flip coming in. That is so crazy. You're basically riding across that big battleship wall. You're doing a backflip bunny hop. There's no takeoff up there. Dropping the shoulder, finding the landing to come in. So Jake Leva's first run score is going to be the one that sticks with the 83.20. Very impressed, though, of Jake Leva's entire season out here. As we move it back to UK's own Declan Brooks. He is our current leader in 87.4. Let's see the strategy right now. We talk about risk reward. Might take a similar approach and direction out on the course, but let's see if he winds up turning it up a few notches. With the height he is on that no-handed backflip.
Huge amplitude, definitely. Look at that invert on the quarter pipe right there from Declan Brooks. 360 whip backwards on the box jump. He is sitting in a comfortable first place, but he knows there's another heat after him. He has to step it up maybe to secure a spot.
Declan with that 270 tail whip into the one-handed X-up. Very impressed how much height he got coming back. There's a 360 double bar spin, carving around the honor capsule. Wall ride going wall to wall, coast to coast, coming back at us with a big setup air, jumping up for that manual, going. Big over the box with the 360 double tail whip.
Holding on to that one. Looked like he was going to have way too slow of rotation for that double whip, but I stand corrected. Front flip right there, and that was at the buzzer again. It amazes me how these athletes can actually time this completely every time right to the very end.
Yeah, that's wild out there, you know, because you're not only throwing different variations of tricks, but also the height. So if you air a quarter pipe, maybe you don't go as high or a little higher, it's going to wind up changing that time. But thankfully, he got that front flip in at the buzzer. You might have heard a little squeak out there while he was on the course. He actually pulled his brake as he catapulted his weight forward. Hopefully, we'll be able to see that on the replay. But that was a second big run for Declan out there. You can see that smile. You know he's happy. And it's very good to see Declan back again. He came back from a big injury, and this is his first contest at FWS all year. That 360 tail whip over the box jump backwards was insane because the landing is so much steeper. It's harder to find the precision, just like on that 270 tail whip.
Coming up right here with that manual on top of the big whip it wall. The quarter to wall right there, that 360 whip and that huge front flip right at the buzzer.
Yeah, and you saw his left hand actually pull that brake lever as he wound up taking off, catapulting off the lip. So let's see, his first score is gonna be the one that sticks, that 87.40. So Declan's gonna sit in that top spot still. He is definitely happy with that. 2 big scores out there. But our 4th rider of heat number 2, again, your defending 2017 champion. He also took top honors in 2014. We're talking about Daniel Dhers. We always mention his strategy, Ryan. The fact that he has that commitment out here, and he likes to wind up breaking down thinking, what are the judges going to want to see? Well, he knows that to check the boxes, you got to use almost every single ramp on the course. And he knows that he has consistency with a lot of his tricks. Some are almost signatures. The off-axis 720, also his 360 tail whips, double tail whips with the no-footed can-cans in there. But let's see how he winds up utilizing them on this canvas and makes the painting of his second run come to life. There's that focus, there's that commitment, and right now we're about to see that second run from Daniel Dhers.
Here we go, Daniel Dhers, gas in the tank, 360 tail whip right there, double tail whip. 360 X up over that extended extended spine jump. Cork 720 on the step down spine. Pushing up here. Big flare X up. 360 double whip. Coming out over top of the wall one more time for the box jump. That no-foot can 360 tail whip.
That was that signature move we were talking about. Dhers transferring up with the bar spin. Tail whip into that big landing. No-handed 360. Bar spin 450. There's that alley-oop flare.
And what do you feel about that run? You think that was bettering his score?
That's a really hard thing to call right there. I know that Daniel had the first run of an 84.2. Normally we talk about his strategy out on the course, and you can usually see as far as his focus goes out there. So that was a 360 tail whip. That was a very impressive trick that he wound up doing. But we also know that he has the 720 versions. We also know that he has double tail whips out there like we're seeing in the 360. So it's a very difficult thing to say, but Daniel also knows the strategy. He knows that it's about the year-end title, and he knows that Nick Bruce, who is ahead of him in points, did not qualify for that final. So we're going to see how that winds up faring against our current leader, Nick Bruce, who is in that field with the 87.40. Dhers currently is in 5th place. We're going to see second run coming in, where that will fare.
Maybe a little improvement with that 360 no-foot can tail whip. Yeah, a 360, maybe that was 84.30. Wow, a very minimal improvement in that one. 5th place.
Yeah, again, look at the numbers though on the right side of your screen. 84, we've got 3 riders with that 84 score. It is so close out there.
Well, you know, I heard someone say yesterday, you can either take it and use it as a 100-point scale, or you can turn it into a 1,000-point scale. Depends what you're feeling that day, but it looks like we might be going into a 1,000-point scale. 84.3, 84.6. Wow, these are some close numbers. 84.9, 86.2, 87.4.
Let's take a look at a few of the highlights. That definitely was one of the best tricks we saw so far, that 360 tail whip to bar spin from Jake Leva. The reason being on the obstacle, that extended spine is so difficult to spot your landing. I mean, that thing is super steep. For all of our riders out there who have jumped a spine at a skate park that's 6 feet tall, you know it can be a little bit hairy when it's coping to coping. Well, throw in a big 5-foot deck, and then you've got one of the harder tricks out there. Look at Declan Brooks up on the front wheel. This is his first place run right there with that burner into the foot jam stall, the big front flip. There's a look at some Daniel Dhers signature right there, that 360 no-footed can-can, popping that invert flare. 360 tail whip, throwing that tabletop, double bar spin on the 360. Yes. Jake Leva was really getting it done out there. Declan with the no-handed backflip on his run. 360 tail whip, bar spin to no-handed backflip. Look at this. I mean, this whole highlight, this is why Declan was in that top spot. He utilized, no other rider had the manual and that balance point. And then he also had the big front flip at the end. He did not get lost on the course to set up for those manuals. That was something that you had to know with confidence out there. But we're keeping the party rolling to heat number 3. These are our last 4 riders who are going to be taking the course. Jake Woolworth, Rim Nakamura, Ernest Zibolts, and Dennis Anderson. But right now it's the Australian Jake Woolworth who is going to be starting 60 seconds.
Jake right here. Wow, look at the amplitude on that one. 360, double tail whip with the transfer. And then coming shredding around here. Look at how fast he was, and the amplitude shows it. Was that a front flip bar spin to tuck?
He got that position for the tuck. There wasn't the full extension, but that was one of the bigger tricks we've seen of the whole contest, because the positioning of your body has to be in such a unique spot on the bar spin. There's the flare tail whip. So Jake going down right now. The thing to note in the semifinals, this was similar. He did crash, and he got back up, and in his second run, he made it done. And that's what happened with all of our riders in the semifinal. And it actually turns out 3 of those riders are in the heat right now. Jake Woolworth, Rim Nakamura, and Dennis Anderson all had problems in their first run, but came back in their second.
Exactly. It was all those riders' weight right on top of their shoulders, but they were able to deliver in the very last moments of the event. You see, well, he just wasn't able to pull it together right there, but started off with such big tricks. 24-point even is going to be the score. It's a wipe away, as we would call it. Moving forward to our next rider from Japan. Really impressed me after the stops in Japan. I didn't know if he had what it took to come out here and end up on the top here. 16 years young, Rim Nakamura from Japan.
Here we go, Rim at the 360, tail up to double bar spin, 4 tricks in 1 air.
Wow, and double bar spin to tuck no hander right there.
Yeah, Rim is a superstar in Japan. Triple bar spin 360, that is insane, Ryan.
Clicked look back right there, then going for a shred around here and going into the hip feature of the box jump. What does he have? A 360 double tail whip, holding on despite that little case.
Yeah, you saw that he adjusted his body position to get the distance and the spin around.
And coming back, a 720 bar spin for Rim Nakamura. Pumping up and still gaining momentum. Bar spin to tuck no hander.
The Sabrosa rider kicking a tail whip on the transfer to the big battleship. Now up on the wall with a bar spin off of our UCI wall. Can stepping through. And Japan is proud right now for Rim Nakamura, putting down a big, solid run.
Finishing off right to the buzzer, getting that alley-oop 180 tuck no hander off of the quarter pipe there. A huge run for the Japanese rider.
Yes, that was a huge combination. 360 tail whip to double bar spin. So crazy how many airs tricks he's able to put into 1 air, just like that bar spin 3 times around in the 360. And there we saw it, that little case, but it didn't slow his momentum down. There was the 720 throwing the bars. And here you go with the tuck no-hander after the bar spin. You can see the Japanese flag proud being held up right there. So he's gonna need to score higher than an 87.40, which is held by Great Britain's Declan Brooks. As we see Rim Nakamura, Japan's own pride of BMX out there, waiting to see where he will fare. Rim currently sitting 8th in points overall, but as we said, he is only 1 of 4 of our top 10 finalists who have made it into the finals for our overall points. So a big score here could help him move past a lot of the other riders, including our current points leader, Nick Bruce, who did not qualify for the final.
It's a big delegation going up in the judges, waiting for the score to come in for Rim Nakamura. We're gonna have to wait and see where it is. Score to beat right now, you see it on screen there. It is that set of Declan Brooks with the 87.4, followed close behind, nipping his heels with an 86.2. That's Jack Clark. Myron Rantes an 84.9. Daniel Sandoval an 84.6. Daniel Dhers an 84.3, and Jake Leva an 83. Rim Nakamura, where is he going to line up? An 84 as well, but an 84.8 into 4th place.
Look at the scores. We have 4 riders with an 84. That is paper thin there to determine who is sitting where. Well, right now, this is the first time in a Feast World Series final. We've got the Latvian rider, Ernest Zebolds, getting ready to strut his stuff. Let's go.
Not the first time only for Ernest himself, but for a Latvian in the contest, and you will see why in a second. Look at the incredible riding out of this man. Did this yesterday in his first run, right in the middle at the start. Such consequence, backwards on the spine, doing a 180, landing fakie backwards, and getting it perfectly around with ease.
That's what we talk about, risk reward, landing the box jump backwards like that. So difficult to do, but look at his momentum as he rebuilt that up from the 180 half cab. You're basically at a dead stop, and Zebolds right now is charging with a confidence on the course. As we see Latvia right here going up with the tail whip. Zebolds bringing a different style, 540 bar spin. We're seeing a different flavor as he bar spins over 270 down, tuck no-hander, and a turn down over the hip with the final moment, no-hander. Where's he going?
And here we go into the tail whip, yes! And he gets it, Ernest Zebolds. Wow, the Latvian has been put on the map. Latvia, pardon me, but man, Ernest Zebolds.
That was a big run, Ryan. We saw that he did something similar to that in our semifinal and was rewarded as being our second place finisher in that. That is why he is going second to last. He deserved that position. The fact that he can be consistent with that 180 and deliver the goods when it counts, take a look at that 360 to click turn down. But right now, it's all about the 180. Look at that, spotting the landing.
Wow.
The margin of error is so thin, and he was able to spot his target, pull the trigger, and hit that bullseye with the 180.
So many combination tricks as well from Ernest here. Seems like he's just having so much fun out there on course. And when he saw that he qualified into the finals yesterday, that he had such a high score on top, he was so elated and taken back himself. Really humble at heart, you can see that. I'm really interested to see where Ernest is going to score today. An amazing run as well. Highlights for me was that 180 backwards over the box. Just amazing bike control to be able to know that he is landing exactly there. Ernest Zebolds gonna lay down a lower score today, a 78.80 below Ira Grazev.
Wow, a little surprised with that score out there, but he's gonna have another opportunity to try to increase the ante out there. Well, a rider who increased it yesterday in our semifinals was our top finisher, Dennis Anderson, coming all the way from Southern California. All the fans here are going absolutely crazy as Dennis Anderson rolls in, doing it for Vans and Haro. Big wall ride transfer.
Wow, huge transfers that this guy does in his runs. Absolutely amazing combinations. 1 foot can seat grab. Seat grab, or that's basically a one-handed cannonball bar spin right there.
Anderson speed jump into the turn, charging back. Where's he going, Ryan?
Huge transfer again with a big tail whip into that Hurricane Parks quarter pipe.
Great transfer up. That was a 360 step-up transfer into the spine with a backflip tail whips clean to pedals as Anderson jumps into the capsule. Coming out of her honor core, going right up to the spine. Very unique lines for Anderson with the one-handed X-up.
Here we go, Anderson going backwards, transfer on the box jump, getting another line in here. Huge cannonball. This is reminiscent of his second run, and there he goes, clearing that channel gap. 180 here on the spine as well, utilizing that free coaster. Amazing run down to the wire as well. for the California local.
So Anderson getting a full pull on his first run, having that 180 this time over the extended spine, a little different than the one that Ernest Zeebolds did. Anderson choosing to do it at the end of his run. It's going to be really interesting to see where his score sits with Ernest Zeebolds. Now I know they both did a 180, their runs were very different. Dennis Anderson utilized the course like no other rider. He actually had big transfers, big wall rides, big tail whip gaps, and then showed that tech ability with the consistency on that 180. Anderson putting down an enormous run. That's why he was our top qualifier. You see him getting a pound out there from our on-the-ground MC Catfish. But let's take a look. That transfer was so big.
Nobody out there the entire weekend has even looked at doing that transfer, let alone Dennis Anderson coming out there oozing with the style, and as well then doing the next one over, going from the UCI quarter pipe step up there. And yes, we have a new leader. Dennis Anderson gets a 90, the first person to push into a 90s.
Anderson bumping into the 90s, 2.5 points higher than Declan Brooks out there. Anderson right there throwing it up, super psyched, big run, but it's gonna come down to a little bit of strategy, because that doesn't mean that Anderson won. You have your top other qualifiers who all could potentially go into the 90s. Wallwork, Nakamura, and Zeebolds have an opportunity to fire back, and they all did that in their second run in the semifinals. Right now, Australia cheering on Jake Wallwork as he comes in for his second 60 seconds. Whoa.
360, was that a triple or a double tail whip?
I believe
right
it was
there?
a double, but we will see the highlight as Wallwork charges around.
Front flip bar spin to tuck no hander. He gets the extension right there into a flare tail whip. He's really going for it on this one. Double tail whip over the extended spine, tuck no hander on that big quarter pipe.
Yeah, Wallwork is on it right now. He knows it's going to be a big run and big score that's going to be needed in the 90s to beat out Anderson. Going around our honor capsule, setting up with the hard corner here. Coming in for that Superman seat grab, throwing the legs for some extra points as Wallwork. Front flip no-handed flare.
Wow, amazing trick right there from Jake Wallwork. Holding things together, tail whip, 10 seconds left. Jake, hold it together. A big flare right there on the small pocket quarter pipe. And an opposite flare right there.
The Colony rider putting down a big run. The stands here are going absolutely live, cheering on Jake Wallwork as he put down a big second run. There were a lot of highlights beginning to end, especially with that topping of the opposite flare. That's his non-traditional direction. You see Wallwork out there getting some love and support from fellow riders, psyched that he put down such a big run. Delivering the goods when it matters. We're gonna take a look at a few of the highlights. Again, Dennis Anderson is in the 90s, but all of our riders are sitting in the 80s right there. 5 of them all with an 84. That score is such a thin margin. There's only 0.6 difference between 5 riders. That is such a close final. Taking a look at the battlefield, you can see the smoke rising as this is one intense final here in Chengdu, China. Look at our fans out here. Bleachers packed, standing room packed. Fans around the world, along with Ryan Meyer and myself, waiting for the score to come in.
Jake Wallwork currently sitting on the bottom of the list, 12th place with that 24. Taking a replay look at that front flip bar spin to tuck no hander, going right into a flare whip. Absolutely amazing riding from Jake Wallwork coming in. Let's see, is his score going to rival that 90 of Dennis Anderson? That is the question coming up. Scores coming in, and it is. It's going to be a 90.2. Jake Wallwork has stepped into first place.
This is a battle royale going down. Talk about a barn burner, a dogfight, as Jake Walwork bumps past Dennis Anderson. Look at that thin margin, only .20 separates first and second. Well, right now, Rim Nakamura, the pride of Japan right now, is looking to fire back and bump up into the 90s with a big score himself.
16 years young, coming, doing it justice in China. 84.8 with his first run score. Whoa! Oh my word! A 360 double bar spin, tuck no hander to bar spin late right there.
That was
absolutely incredible tricks.
5 tricks in one air. Rim Nakamura right now riding the beast as he throws the bars triple over the spine in that 360. Rim knows that it's going to take a big run with big tricks as he fires back to the box jump.
Coming back there, 360. Oh no! Rim was really pushing it on this one. You saw he was loose coming around that corner. He is so excited though. Look at the huge smile on his face. I have never seen anyone do that trick.
Talk about defying the odds out there. Unfortunately going down, but we said right, 5 tricks in one air. That is so disheartening that he went down, but look at the rider camaraderie. You see he gives a pound to Jake Walwork down on the side. Let's take a look at the Oakley rider.
1, 2, tuck no hander, and 3 right there. Absolutely incredible way. He just stopped, did the tuck no hander, came back to do the bar spin. That's where it went wrong on the 360 double whip. Had a bit too much excitement, maybe a bit too much adrenaline pumping through his system right there. He is only 16 years young, but he is going to be a threat to reckon with for decades to come.
Let's also note that wasn't over our traditional feast step box jump. That hit was way smaller than the regular hit. But right now, one rider could potentially knock off Jake Walwork from the top of the podium. His first run gave him a 78.8. We were a little surprised with the score. Let's see Latvia fire back.
Your second place finalist coming out of the semifinals. This is Ernest Zebold, putting Latvia on the map exactly with that 180 bar spin. Oh, just dabbing a foot on that 180 bar spin over the box jump backwards. Oozing a lot of street style out into the park course here. Wall ride to tuck no hander, getting a nice hit in there. Has great line selection, I have to add.
Yeah, he did have that foot dab, but he's able to recover. Let's see if he can keep his mental game in it as he does a look-back air on the tall 8-foot quarter pipe. Ernest Zebold's bar spin, 270 off the deck. Very smooth on that transition. Those are not conventional tricks, but he makes them look so smooth while he does it. Bar spin 540, 12 seconds. Bar spin up, 270 with the bar spin coming down. Nice little transition moves right there. Turn down over the hip. Enough for one final thought. Going backwards, can he get the tail whip? Yes!
Yes, Ernest. Amazing right to the end. That is, in my way, how you end a run.
Yeah, I mean, we heard the buzzer go off, but if a rider is in motion, whether it's a manual or maybe traveling backwards like that, the combination will count until he stops or just puts a foot down. But Zebold thankfully gets that tail whip out there. So let's take a look at the madness of Ernest Zebold as he gets that full click turn down after the bar spin in the 360. Here's a look at the bar spin, tuck no-hander, perfect placement of the handlebars in the lap. He's got that 540 bar spin, and here's a look at the no-hander coming in fakie, going backwards, and then getting that tail whip. So this is what we were talking about. Ernest Zebold was one of the last riders who could potentially bump up into the 90s, but right now it all comes down to our last rider. We're talking about Dennis Anderson. He is sitting in second place with a 90. Hopefully he can get a score that's going to be higher than a 90.2. That is right, only .2 separates Dennis Anderson from our current leader, Jake Walwork.
Let's see what he has. He has a lot of tricks up his sleeve. Double tail whip right there backwards on the box jump. Huge 1-foot cannon. Seems set up the right way on that box jump. Cannonball one-handed bar spin. Smith stall inverted on that sub box.
Anderson taking a similar approach, but let's see if he ups the ante with some of his tricks.
Big tail whip right there. That's the largest transfer we have on course. He's the only one tackling it and doing that tail whip over it. Turn down right there, not as clicked as he would have liked, I assume. Oh, and that's gonna throw him off.
Anderson having some difficulty out there, but doing it for our fans in Chengdu, China. Pointing to the bleachers as they go absolutely crazy. Anderson.
Going for a whip 180 right there.
Like we said, Anderson doing it for the fans, looking to do that tail whip 180. Obviously, that score is going to be a throwaway. That means we are looking at our fourth stop in Chengdu, a winner here at the Feast World Series. We're talking about Jake Woolwork from Australia. You see him down there with Kyle Baldock, a fellow Aussie, cheering him on. And here's the rider camaraderie, the brotherhood of BMX, as Dennis Anderson goes over and gives Jake Woolwork a well-deserved pound and a hug. I can't believe this. .2 was the separation between Anderson and Woolwork.
Well, this was definitely a 1,000-point battle going on in this contest. If you look at the scores, it's absolutely amazing to see.
What a moment, what a contest, and what history going down here at our UCI BMX Freestyle Park World Cup Final. Taking a look at the scores. Anderson's first score is going to be the one that counts. That means that Jake Woolwork's second score is going to be the one for him, that 90.2.
You see right there, Jake Woolwork getting all the congratulations from the other athletes out here at the Fees. We take a look at our leaderboard right there. Jake Woolwork with a 90.20. Dennis Anderson nipping at his heels, only 0.2 behind with that 90 even. Declan Brooks in third place. Jack Clark, Myron Rentes, Rim Nakamura, Daniel Sandoval, Daniel Dhers, Jake Leva, Ryan Nyquist, Erik Razav, and Ernest Zabold finishing off the top 12. It was an absolutely amazing up and down points battle going on throughout this contest. So many 84s in there. Is absolutely amazing that the judges could just tally up those little differences to make sure that they were in their appropriate positions.
Yeah, it's all about the scoring here. Ignore even the placements on the left. Just look how close all of those numbers are for our riders. It's so crazy to see the level of competition. And we know a big part of that is because of the Olympics in 2020. So all of our riders have stepped up the game. Again, we partnered with the UCI to up the competition. Bart de Jong, the head delegates here, and this is going to be the first competition that will help the riders start to determine who will be the one of 9 in the Olympics. It's going to be from here, the November 1st until May 11th, 2020. So all the criteria will be determined at the stops. You could go onto the UCI.org to find out what all the exact specifics are and how you could get involved and enter the contests.
Let's take a look back and see some highlights, but as well, let's look at the winning run. This is going to be from Jake Woolwork. This is the winning run out here in Fees.
Cheering on Jake Woolwork as he comes in for his second 60 seconds. Whoa.
360, was that a triple or a double tail?
I believe
right
it was
there?
a double, but we will see the highlight as Woolwork charges around.
Front flip bar spin to tuck no hander. He gets the extension right there into a flare tail whip. He's really going for it on this one. Double tail whip over the extended spine. Tuck no hander on that big quarter pipe.
Yeah, Woolwork is on it right now. He knows it's going to be a big run and big score that's going to be needed in the 90s to beat out Anderson. Going around our honor capsule, setting up with the hard corner here. Coming in for that Superman seat grab, throwing the legs for some extra points as Woolwork. Front flip no-handed flare.
Wow, amazing trick right there from Jake Woolwork. Holding things together, tail whip, 10 seconds left. Jake, hold it together. A big flare right there on the small pocket quarter pipe. And an opposite flare right there. Some incredibly difficult tricks right there, maneuvering all over the course. Some highlights for me, that no-handed front flip flare, amazing difficulty coming from our winner.
Yeah, then he actually threw, it was an opposite flare with the tail whip after that difficult bar spin no-handed flip. That was so crazy riding from Jake Woolwork.
Let's go down and see the podium right there for the finalists.
It's been a wild ride this year, and it all came to an end about 5 minutes ago. And right now we're about to crown our podium. In third place here at the UCI BMX Freestyle World Cup, presented by FWS, your third place BMX men's freestyle is Declan Brooks! Second place, your favorite BMX rider's favorite rider from California, USA, Dennis Anderson.
Thank you, brother. Oh, sorry. Yeah, thank you.
And the first time standing on the top of a podium at a feast for this man, and it is well deserved. Representing Australia, first place, Jake Walwork!
Man right here. Oh yeah!
All right, Jake Walwork, you got a big fan base here. I was talking with some of the Australians yesterday. They said Jake is going to win this thing. What was your mental state coming into the last stop?
I just wanted to stay on my bike the whole time, and that was the aim. I can't actually believe that I made it.
Well, it's crazy because I know you've been working hard for this for a long time. You finally did it. What does it feel like to win a piece?
Feels amazing. Fuck yes.
I could have said it better myself. You guys, one more time for Australia's Jake Walwork.
I want to say hey to all my boys and my family at home. They're all watching.
There you go. Shout out to all the Australian riders. 2019, all eyes on this guy. Congrats, man. What a competition.
Amazing to see that interview come down. Let's look at the overall ranking out here, the FWS World Series 2018. Who ended up taking it? It's going to be Marin Rantes with a 26,700, only pushing past Daniel Dhers by just under 1,000 points right there. Absolutely great points race right to the last stop with these BMX athletes.
Wow, look how close that is, 26,700. There's only 0.200 difference between Marin Rantes and Daniel Dhers. That is so close. Nick Bruce, who unfortunately didn't qualify for the finals, will be in third, Justin Dowell, and then Rim Nakamura. So look at that, Marin Rantes, Croatia, making them very proud, being in that top spot, beating out Daniel Dhers by just a little bit. Daniel Dhers was our defending champion, but it literally came down to the finals run, and Marin Rantes came out on top.
It's great to see Marin Rantes get some kind of reward for all those incredible tricks that he did there today. It was an outstanding performance from the Croatian, but from all 12 of our finalists out there, I want to give a big thank you to all the BMX freestyle athletes that have come out to the FWS, have tried their luck, and have made this contest series what it is. It has been an amazing year, but stay tuned, and we're going to have all the award ceremonies coming at the end of today. Still, after this contest, we're going to have the Flatland Finals happening next behind us. So stay tuned online and you'll be able to catch all the action at FWS.tv. On behalf of myself, Ryan Meyer, and Daryl Now, thank you so much from the FWS for tuning in. It's been a spectacular event out here. Please make sure that as well you follow us online on social media, FWS.official on Facebook, at FWS World Series on Twitter and Instagram, and check us out on YouTube. We have the FWS Facebook page. It's FWS FISE. Make sure you just type it in. Super easy. You get a lot of interactive content that you can stay involved with. Watch all the replays and stay up to tune with what's going on with the FWS. As well, who knows? Maybe we're going to be coming to a city near you you that we haven't made it to yet in the past, stay involved with us throughout the off season. We're going to be having all that coverage pushed to you. We want to see you. We want to hear your voice. If you want to check me out on Instagram, at Late Night Rai as well. Daryl, what's your handle?
At Daryl Now, DARRYLNAU.
Thank you so much, guys, again for tuning in. It's been an amazing show, an amazing season for the UCI BMX Freestyle Park World Cups out here. Thank you to all the females and all the males for coming out in the professional division. I am Ryan Meyer. This is Daryl Now. Thank you for tuning into the Fees, and we'll see you next time.
Yes, y'all. Yes, y'all. Yes, y'all. Yes, y'all. Yes, y'all. Yes, y'all.
And going off the rail.
No way. Start the party. Celebrate. I'm sick of nonsense. Finally, we're here. Look at my roll. Stress keeps building. It's about to blow. I'm coming to the end of the line. Check my watch, man.
In CHENGDU, China, I mean, it's honestly amazing. Like, the crowd every year has been really supportive. You feel a great energy, and it's just a perfect home for action sports.